Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our wrestling podcast. So, without further ado, the following podcast is scheduled for one fall, and today's topic, WrestleMania Celebrity Greatest Moments and Matches. And don't forget, you can subscribe and listen to our wrestling podcast on the go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Soundcloud, and YouTube.
Welcome to the O.W.P. This is our wrestling podcast. This is Dave along with Jess.
Hi, David.
And Craig.
Hello, David.
Bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. And now on to our topic today, Celebrity WrestleMania Matches and Moments. Hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or just click on Linktree and you can find Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube for your listening pleasure. What's going on, guys?
Well, David, we're in WrestleMania season. I don't know if you knew that.
I heard that.
And so we're going to bring a little bit of joy to the podcast. We're going to talk WrestleMania-ish stuff.
WrestleMania-ish?
Yeah.
Kabuki-ish?
Yes.
I still can't believe there's Kabuki Warriors when someone comes in that talked about Kabuki-ish things for 2 years on a podcast, and now there's the Kabuki Warrior. I mean, I'm sure there's no relation. Just, I don't know.
The great Kabuki was a wrestler, Dave. Jesus.
Yeah, I don't believe it. Anyway, so we're getting into it. We've been talking about some topics when it comes to WrestleMania, and we always talk about, man, there's always like great celebrities at WrestleMania, some greater than others. Some have really brought WrestleMania back to the forefront. We're going to talk about a few of those. What do you guys want to talk about first?
Well, everybody talks about the great matches and stuff. And those are great episodes too. Great moments, great matches, all that stuff. But I mean, WrestleMania now is especially known. Well, not lately, actually, but for the most part, for a big chunk of its history, it was known for having celebrities on there. Vince loves having celebrities on because it makes it mainstream, pal, and it makes me important. And so that's why he does it. So I figured, let's have this like celebrity WrestleMania matches and moments, because we've actually had celebrities, and let's define celebrities, right? It could be anything. It could be actors, actresses, celebrities from other sports, musicians. So really, we want to encompass everything. But
people trying to get into the Hall of Fame constantly.
Some celebrities have actually wrestled in matches at WrestleMania. Like legit matches.
Yeah. And,
yeah, some of that is
I think the focus today is on celebrities that, like, not just the Pam Andersons and Jenny McCarthy's and kind of those kind of people, but like big celebrities that impacted the business enough to where it got big time media and the risk in doing these celebrities. So I think a few of these are in that range but I mean, it really hinged upon getting more than just local sports media in the early years. And so a lot of these, and then even, 14, 16 years later, you rely on those big celebs to really make a difference and push. And that's, I think, a lot of what we're talking about today, I think.
Even when wrestling's like at the height of a boom period, it still feels more legitimate when like an actual celebrity is like, yes, I'm going to WrestleMania, or they're there. Like, it's always been that way. No matter how big, even if wrestling's huge, like it's everywhere. If they have a celebrity there, Vince is like, now we're real. Yes.
Yeah. It was always about, you'd watch WrestleMania. And he would always be looking for that local nightly news hit at 11 o'clock. You'd see, and sports with Jacob. And then Jacob would show and WrestleMania tonight. It would always have the image or the quick scene of the celebrity in WrestleMania. It wouldn't focus on the big match, and it was that just
we could say what we
mainstream
want
Raw.
about Vince, but he's always been so smart with stuff like that. Like he's always had that. That's really the seed that he planted when he bought it from his dad, was just like, this is what I'm going to do with it. And this is just one aspect, not just the WrestleMania Super Show itself, but I have to involve like pop culture, because that's going to push my product. That's going to make my product even more valuable. And when people that are legit celebrities, like, you know, Ben Stiller or, you know, Adam Sandler or whatever, are seen in the crowd, like watching, well, that makes it seem all the more important, which is super smart. And he's correct.
Yeah, it's all true. Yeah, he's not wrong. So the first one we talk about, I have a soft spot for this because it might reach into our real WrestleMania moments too. We may have even talked about it before, but I can't remember. It's not in the notes, Jess, but whenever I think of Mr. T and Hulk Hogan teaming up at WrestleMania 1, March 31st, 1985, there is some stuff that predates that WrestleMania match. We'll get into it in a little bit, but that's fun to me. I think that whole situation is fantastic. But Mr. T actually teamed with Hulk Hogan to face Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff in the main event of the very first WrestleMania. Mr. T was already a TV star, and he on the breakout television. This is one of my favorite shows, by the way. The A-Team. Did you guys watch the A-Team when you were kids, even in reruns over and over and over?
Yeah.
I would.
How did you not?
I would run home to make sure I caught the A-Team like at 3:00. Make sure I got it before school was out. You know, before when school was out, to get there on time. I would make sure I caught that show. That, along with like the Dukes of Hazzard, was like right before it, I think. And, you know, I think there was like the $6 Million Man and the Fall Guy.
All that
stuff.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. And the A-Team was a big part of that. And, you know, when that was on Netflix, I think I binged the whole thing back. It was fantastic. I love the A-Team.
Did it hold up? I haven't seen it in years. I didn't know when it was on Netflix, but did it hold up as a show?
It holds it to me because of the gadgets and the tricks they play at the end. Remember, we don't want to hurt anybody. You know, it's all non-violent explosives.
We're mercenaries, but don't
just
hurt anybody.
But we're gonna flip the car, but he's gonna be fine. At the end of every scene, when they flip the car, everybody gets out like, "Oh, I'm hurt."
Yeah, they're just slightly dizzy.
But they're like, "Oh,
man.
I'm alive." Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. No,
what a great non-violent
overturning the
tactic you
vehicle.
just used against me. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, you
Flip my
foiled
car.
me
So
again.
smart, and yet so non-violent.
Yeah. And Mr. T was a big part as B.A. Baracus and the A-Team. And a big, you know what's funny is on the A-Team, he looked huge. I mean, whoa, man, Mr. T is a big son of a bitch. And then the problem, though, is that then he's like, we're going to go to WrestleMania, and you're going to be with Hulk Hogan, who happens to be, at this point, they say 303. He was a 320-pound beast at this time.
Hogan was a
Hulk
bloated
Hogan was.
bitch, absolutely, by this point.
Yeah, he was massive. And I'm not saying Mr. T was small, don't get me wrong.
It's
but
not
Mr. T
roid
shorter
rage.
than him.
By the way, like they say that, you know, roid rage comes from taking steroids, obviously, and you have roid rage. It's not. It's just that he's so bloated and uncomfortable. It just makes him mad. Like, so it's not roids that do it. It's just like, you know, when I'm gaining weight and getting fat, you get mad. Like, you know, sometimes when you know I'm leading the wrong life, I'm eating too much fast food, and you get in your car to drive to work and you feel your fucking belly hang over your belt.
Yeah,
that
roid
makes
rage.
me angry. Yeah, it gets me angry. So it's not the chemicals that did it. It was just that he's bloated and he's like, huh? Like he's like the Hulk, and he's just
It's
mad.
putting on
So-
like shirts that you know you love that don't fit anymore. That just they fit wrong, but it was the perfect shirt for you. Whether it's like a sports team, and you're
But
like,
he's working out like a maniac, taking these steroids, and then he just still gets into shit. And he's like, why am I not getting smaller or better?
I want
brother.
to get back to that anger in a second too, but I want to have a few more notes because I think the anger is important to the funniest part of the story.
To Richard Belzer, it's important.
Oh yeah, the Belcher story. We got to get to it, but just to get through the notes a little bit. Mr. T also co-starred with Sylvester Stallone in the 1992 blockbuster
No,
movie of
1982. It's my
Rocky
fault. It's a typo. It's 1982.
Oh, 1982. I'm sorry. I'm reading notes, and 1982. You're right. That would make no sense. 92 and Rocky 3. And there was always that major connection between
re-released
the WWF and the casual wrestling fan during the rock and wrestling era. So this all makes sense. But this is what's so funny. So this whole time, Hogan meets Mr. T, probably, you know, during the filming of Rocky.
Brother.
And, you know, and all these things are going on. That's great.
Hey, brother.
And at WrestleMania 1, he brings him in. But this is what's so interesting. Before WrestleMania actually happens, Mr. T and Hogan are doing a bunch of press junkets, right? And Jess could explain this a lot better. But basically, very last minute, they get put on the
Richard Belzer's shit talk show.
Richard Belzer's shit talk show. And they were kind of coerced into going to do it because
look at me defending
Hogan
Hulk. He had no business doing what he did, but I'll defend him.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you on this because here's the. But I want to say Mr. T egged him on. You want to talk about anger? Mr. T was angrier than Hogan at this moment, but Hogan gets egged on by Mr. T in my opinion because they go to the show because they say, oh, there's kids here though. They're gonna be really disappointed if you don't show up. And
yeah,
Hogan's
Belzer, he was a dick.
There's gonna be kids there, and he's like, oh, there's gonna be kids there. Like, and they're like, well, hell, brother. Hell, Hogan, I know you got to go see the kids, So, fuck. All right. Goddamn kids. But anyway, they go. There's no fucking kids in the fucking show. And Hogan's already irritated. And the whole time, Belzer's just egging them on, just irritating them. And Mr. T is working out during the fucking talk segment. There it is.
Craig's holding up a picture of Richard Belzer's fucking face.
Yeah.
You know what,
he
though?
Looks so dorky over there.
It's violence is not okay, kids. But Belzer was an asshole, and if that was a tactic that he used, hey, there's a bunch of kids down here that wanted to see you. All right, we got to do it. And then they get down there. Not only are there no kids, but then Belzer, the dickhole, starts going off of like wrestling's fake and making comments about it being a show and it's fake. And are you guys for real? And blah. That's like you're prodding a tiger.
And kayfabe was very.
I don't care if they're not real fighters or not.
here.
If I met Hulk in person in his prime and saw all of his 320 poundness right in front of me, I would not egg that fucker on. I wouldn't. I guess comedians just have a sickness. Like comedians are like just anything to get a laugh.
Oh, they're begging you to kill him.
Yeah, he basically Belzer got his goat and got him to stand up and show me a hold. So Hulk puts him in a front face lock, like a front headlock. And squeezes his neck so much that he legitly passes out. And then when he lets Belzer go, because he felt him go limp in his arms, he thwacked the back of his head on the hard stage. And like it's one of my, I can't say it's one of my favorites.
There's blood everywhere.
It's not fair to say that because he hurt another human being, but it's so good. Go watch.
And then he pops like back up like it doesn't hurt him. And there's
he tried to,
but he's like bleeding.
Yeah.
And
he didn't even know. He said, "We'll be right back after messages from you know who." Like he didn't. He knew I have to cover this or whatever. But when he turned around, you see the blood all on the back of his head, and so
he was split wide open.
It's not
but here's
funny,
the thing about
but it is. You asked a big monster to be like, "Put me in a hold, please." Like, and
Yeah, Mr. T's like, yeah. You show him.
But here's why Mr. T's ridiculous. Because after it happened, obviously T saw everything, and then like instead of saying T, just saying like, "Oh, you know what?" At first he's like, "He's fine." But then after I think T knew that Belzer was hurt, T was on camera saying like, "That's why you shouldn't mess with the champion. You should not be messing with no champion. Don't be calling out the champion." I'm like, you are making it so much worse for the lawsuit that's going to happen. Once the thwack happened, I was like, lawsuit, like you knew it. Like you knew it.
When you see you still catch it on YouTube, I highly recommend you go find. I'm sure we'll play a clip of it here, but I have to tell you the best line of that whole thing when it happens is like, "It's okay. He just sleeping."
Yeah, that's right. It's okay.
He says that?
Yeah, T says that.
Yeah, Mr. T says that because he's really sleeping.
Hulk was
he's
slapping him awake
okay
on the ground, and then T's like, "It's okay. He's just sleeping."
It's the best.
$1 million.
I love
nap.
that whole scene. This
anyone
is like
that's smart at
celebrities
that
in
point
wrestling
would be like,
and wrestling getting real all combined in the one.
Yeah, if anyone was smart in that room, T would have just been like, "Yeah, it's okay, it's fake." Because then I'd be like, "Okay, like he just said it was fake. It's all acting." But instead, he's like, "Don't mess with the champion, bitch. Don't do that." Like I'm like, "Oh my god, you're making it worse." I'm sure Vince saw it and cringed, and then heard T. He's like, "Someone shut him up." Shut him up! Like just so pissed.
Oh yeah, that's like that's one of my favorite stories of all time. When I watch it on YouTube, it never gets old for me.
But but even I know we're running long on this too. But even going to the match, T has such a "don't mess with the champion" attitude. Like even backstage, that Piper and Orndorff,
he took it more seriously.
Yeah, Piper and Orndorff hated him, and it was a portion of, again, Piper and Orndorff are probably on the bloat juice, and they're annoyed that their shirts don't fit right, and so like they're just like. they're protecting the business, and what do you bring this actor in for? Like, and they're acting like that, which again, you got to give Vince more props for that, because Vince is like, you listen, assholes, like he's bringing so many more eyes to our product. Stop it now. But instead, Piper's like, I'm gonna kill him, man. If I like, oh my God, stop. So of course, Orndorff and Piper hated him. So behind the scenes, they hated T. They didn't want to work with T. He's not airplane spinning me, man. No way, man. Like, you know, it's like everything they wanted to do. He's not hip tossing me, man. No way, man. Like, it's just
you know what's funny about the whole thing is you put Mr. T in that position. I don't know what I'm starting to think it through. If he was too nice, it would have been like, oh wow, he can't do it, wow, you know. So it's like, so he has
Dave's
to be.
Roddy Piper
he has to
like
be a total dickhole
choked.
the entire time, and go, fuck you guys. I'm just as good as you are. I will kick your ass, and I'm gonna play this kayfabe even in the back, because otherwise he's not respected at all, because he is from the outside. So I don't know how else he could have played it.
I think a lot of
you talk about it, Jess.
From what I hear with Piper and you, the interviews, there were two big things. One, and I think you heard it when other stuff that T did, he either was too busy or didn't want to prep and work out. They had trouble, and he would. I think they thought him.
Do you
lazy.
want to practice, man? No, fool.
Oh, your calendar's busy, man. You can't do it, man. Okay, man. Okay, we'll call on the fly, man. We'll call on the fly. And then I think he also had an entourage who said something to the effect of like, T was always about wanting two limos and kind of his ego. So I think that a combination of respect and then
that's fantastic
work ethic. And then,
that's a good point, actually. Yeah.
TV stars.
I guess you have some Orndorff and Piper.
They get private planes and shit. It's all good and work part time.
Yeah, I guess you have to give Orndorff and Piper credit, because if that was happening, it would be like, oh, Mr. Hollywood, man. I can't do an Orndorff impression. That's the only reason why I don't switch back and forth. I can only do a Piper, which my Piper is.
The only Orndorff.
Everything's
Orndorff is Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah, call me Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful.
And that's all he does, and then Heenan would do the rest of the talking.
But it's not. He was at that point. A-Team was like the number 4 show on television. He had his own serial, or he would a year later.
That's right.
Rocky
it's a peanut butter flavor.
It was like it's the big, almost like The Rock is now. He was huge. It was hard to tell.
But it was opposite, right? Big. Like The Rock started in wrestling and then got big, so The Rock gets it when he comes back. But yeah, no, Craig makes a good point. It's like, yeah, like he's like, I know you guys are inviting me into your world, but you don't really know what the wrestling world is about unless you're like brought up in that locker room environment. You think it's all an act, because it is all an act. And so when Vince courted him, Vince is probably like, it's all a show, and the whole thing. And T's like, yeah, totally, fool, yeah. And like, so did the whole thing. So T gets back there and he's like, yeah, it's all an act. Here's my limos. I have 35 limos outside. Motherfucker, you don't have 35 limos. Then he's like, oh, really, man? You want a limo? And it's the whole thing. And then everyone's like not on the same page, and they had to pull off the biggest gamble of McMahon's life was WrestleMania 1. So the main event hinged on that. Like, it was this big celebrity coming in to put different eyeballs on the product, even more than Hogan already did at that point. So it's like
you have to respect Vince to be able to work in chaos like that.
And like, you go back and watch WrestleMania 1 now, and I think people don't rank WrestleMania 1 like when you rank the best WrestleManias of all time. Nobody talks about 1. They kind of put it up on a shelf. If you actually had to rank WrestleMania 1, it would easily be in my bottom 10. Easily. Like, it was all of it was bad. But at the time, for what they did with the MTV relationship and getting T, it was such an explosion. It was such a culture like just hit, like people got to lay eyes on these comic book characters that came to life, and it worked. And so, yeah, this match was really successful in the sense that, I mean, it was everywhere. Every news outlet covered it. It was really amazing.
And then speaking of chaos, even after that and not liking each other, that led to a year later, WrestleMania 2 having one of the worst matches in history in Piper.
I hate him, man. I hate him.
Successful shows ever possibly in the history of shows. And of course, I'm creeping up on the back of Mr. T. I can tell you that because it's got it written right here on the back of your chair. Mr. T, hello. I know you can hear me, and I don't mean to bother you. My name's Hot Rod. Of course, you know who I am. And I know who you are because your name's written on the back of the chair, and I'm assuming that that's there so you don't get lost. They told me to come down here and talk to you because what you got here is this great, successful show. Then you guys are portraying these bad guys, and they wanted to know, since I am a bad guy actual in real life, and I do beat folks up for a living. What they wanted to know, they kind of wanted to know, how does it feel to be portraying someone like myself?
Well, you ain't nothing, man.
Because I don't have a chair with my name on it? Excuse me, I don't need one, because I can take any chair I want to take. I ain't nothing. What are you talking about?
Hey, man, I seen what you've been doing on TV, man. You've been fighting them little whips. What I do is for real.
And then like, what's our payday going to be for WrestleMania 2? Okay, man, but if he pulls anything, like it's like, yeah. Even the shoot, and rest his soul, Roddy Piper, but even the shoot interviews before, he tried to shoot on me, man. No, he didn't, Piper. Everybody knew at that point.
It was terrible.
You were all getting handsome
action
paydays.
punches. If you don't go back and watch that WrestleMania 2, but it's 4 rounds of garbage. It's just...
Yeah, that's why we didn't highlight WrestleMania 2 in this one. Like, because as bad as WrestleMania 1 was in the sense of like, you kind of could go back and look, it was like oil and water. Like WrestleMania 2 was even worse. They were just playing off the whole hype of T.
It ends with a slam and then he throws a stool at him.
And Piper was pissed. Piper was pissed that I guess
special until WrestleMania 3.
He told T to lay it in, and T missed by like a foot on the one that knocked Piper outside the ring. And he was like, "That's it, man. I'm gonna get back in the ring."
Good God.
I love you, Piper. I'm so sorry, buddy.
That's all.
Nah, man, that's cool.
I think he would appreciate people impersonating him. I think he would love.
I do.
You know, he'd be like, yeah, good, go for it. You know, that's Piper. So we got a little side note here. We got to talk about Mr. Euchre, one of the great Indian announcers, and a lot of celebrity
Milwaukee Brewers.
Dave, you say Indians? Major League.
Dave, it's 2020. Be specific. He's not actually Indian, because if you accidentally label him an Indian, you're in trouble.
Well, I was saying he was
the baseball team, the Indians,
the
right?
movie Major League, where he announced for the Cleveland Indians. But you're right, he is a Brewer announcer, or at least was at one time. But he was leased out for WrestleMania 3 and WrestleMania 4 as an announcer. And there's one moment where I think everybody remembers Euchre with Andre. It is just so endearing, and Andre's so great. Where Euchre's like, how there's other ones too with Andre that are great, but just out of nowhere, Andre starts to kayfabe choke him, and Euchre just totally plays it off. But Andre's hands could almost engulf Euchre's whole shoulder and torso. He's so big.
But yeah,
just in comparison.
So,
but he's like, oh, he sticks his tongue out and just totally plays it out.
It is one of the most endearing WrestleMania moments, and I think about that. Euchre did so many great things. He's an example. He's sort of the opposite of T. And I know T was more of like a jacked up actor, but Euchre was like, he loved wrestling and he understood what it was. Euchre did so many he called matches. He did interviews on both WrestleManias, and that one at WrestleMania 4 with Andre was funny. But Euchre was so good in the sense that he started off that interview, and when Andre walked in, he looks at him, he's all, "Oh, hey, Andre." And he was so genuine with it. And Andre was this big heel, but then Andre was fine with it. And Andre, if he's not happy, would show it, but he was totally fine with it. And the line that made Andre kayfabe choke him was, "Hey, Andre," because Andre had his hand on his shoulder. He put his hand on Bobby's shoulder the entire interview pretty much. And then he looked at Andre at the end. He's like, "Hey, don't you mind getting your foot off my shoulder?" And he's like, "Ah, ah," and he went to choke him. And it was just so funny. And Euchre sold it and everything. And it was, everything Euchre did to me was super. I loved it, because I was even as a young kid, I knew he's going along with it, which made me happy. Does that make sense?
He legitimized.
Didn't Andre break on the end of that little moment too? Where before he walks off, he's
if you look, he's smiling. He looks at the camera and smiles when he walks off, because he knew this is really good.
His 6 layers of shark teeth.
Sorry. God damn.
But yeah, so many WrestleMania 3 that he did commentary on the 6-man tag, the Harts and Danny Davis, and he was so playing into the whole Danny Davis storyline, calling Davis a weasel, and the Hart Foundation, they're a bunch of skunks, and just great stuff. And I'm he got it. There was no question. It wasn't how many times have you heard some celebrities going, "I don't know, how much does that guy weigh?" or something silly, but Euchre was just full on into the storyline, and and then earlier, I don't remember what match, but he was there, and Ventura would go at Euchre all the time in a funny way and make fun of his batting average and make fun of, because he was a legit baseball player. And so Euchre would just play along with it, and it just worked. Hearing Monsoon, Euchre, and Ventura, it sounded like they were working together for years. And that both WrestleManias, I wanted to note him, because he's a pleasure to listen to. You go back now and I smile at everything he does, because I'm as a wrestling fan, I'm like, thanks for taking it serious. That's what it is. It's a show, man.
He legitimized.
Yeah, you made everybody feel
WrestleMania.
comfortable. You were totally in it. Like, it was awesome. It was awesome. Everything he did was great.
Well, he made a celebrity like that has that kind of pull and gall to speak that way. He brings the sport to life. He makes it. He makes it, I don't want to say real, but he legitimizes it by being there and by taking it seriously, and he brings it to the forefront that way. Where, like, you want to talk about the casual fan, Euchre could bring that in. I think he's greatly underestimated what he did at those times.
Remember, you are the ex-champion already.
Well, there you have it. I still haven't found.
He is
Vanna
the
White.
ex-champion. Don't worry about Vanna White. Now, Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania is over.
Hey, how about getting your foot off my shoulder?
Because he was such a good baseball announcer, I think he just tied it in to, like, well, how I talk passionately about stats in baseball, I'm going to talk about the storyline. There was a time where he was talking to Gorilla, and he was just like, yeah, and this guy, Danny Davis, I mean, he cheated and put the tag titles on the Hart Foundation, Gorilla. What's that about? And Gorilla fed straight off him, and I'm like, yes, you're using storylines.
He took it seriously.
He was going along with Monsoon, and just, he wasn't like playing stupid about everything. Oh man, these guys are huge. Oh wow,
it's taking
what's
it
that guy
seriously,
doing? Like,
knowing your research, being a total pro, serving the story, and not making it about himself. Like, it was, and even it was all self-effacing. It was always, I'm the butt of the joke. My batting average is terrible. Andre's choking me.
Right.
But with respect, it was always not mocking the business.
I never imagined Euchre in my mind in any of those moments mocking the sport. When you call our sport at that moment,
close punches expose the business.
3 of us going to hell.
Expose turnbuckles. But the next one, I gotta be honest, I'm not too fond about this particular celebrity at WrestleMania. Okay, let's get into it. Lawrence Taylor wrestles at WrestleMania 11, April 2nd, 1995. He faces Bam Bam in the I can't even, I'm choking on the word, in the main event of WrestleMania.
Well, but calm down for a second. 1995 was a real shit factory for both promotions. So I'm not saying that, but yeah, it was Vince's like attempt to just like try to relive like what T gave him and like some other, and it was legit. LT was a legit athlete. And
just
so
retired,
just like,
big New York Giants, huge market. It was,
yeah. And he was trying to get meat at 95.
Broke Theismann's leg. Yeah, I get it.
95 was a soft year for both promotions and wrestling in general. 95 was just shit business wise. So Vince was just trying to do anything to liven up Mania that year, keep himself, distinguished from WCW. And because WCW at this time already had Hulk and Savage and all them, and they were trying their whole old patrol over there. And so like Vince was just really trying to be like, we're still Mania, we're still cutting edge, biggest show in wrestling. Look at us. And I think LT did what was asked of him. And really, if you go back and watch the match, why they didn't put Diesel and Shawn last. I don't know. Because like when someone buys a pay-per-view, okay, they may buy it because LT's on the card. Agreed? Let's just agree with that. Let's agree with that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
touchdown.
If I already bought the pay-per-view and LT's not last, how does that hurt anything? Like, always treat your title as the most important thing. Diesel and Shawn should have been last, even though Vince used LT and Bam Bam to draw the mainstream media in. But once you pay money and buy the pay-per-view, what does it matter of the order of the card? Like people always criticize Hulk and Rock should have went last at Mania 18. No, they shouldn't have. Your world title should have went last. And if the crowd was dead and Triple H and Chris Jericho couldn't do what they needed to do to get the crowd off their ass, that's on them.
They don't deserve to be the main event.
They had the main event spot, but now he caters to that. And if the big match is Undertaker coming back one more time, he's going to be the main event. Why? You could still sell him as an attraction. Once I buy the pay-per-view, I bought it. I'm not going to go to my cable company and be like, I watched the whole thing and I want my money back because Undertaker wasn't last, God damn it. They put their title on last. I don't know why Southern people have that. But like, so I don't understand it, like why they had to put Bam Bam and LT on last. They didn't have to. I think that alienated wrestling fans more than anything because in 95, when business was soft, all you had left was those hardcore fans that will still watch no matter what. But yet Vince was trying so hard to get the mainstream, he alienates them and puts LT and Bam Bam on last. And his world title match second to last. Makes zero sense to me. It doesn't make any sense.
I remember watching it back in the day when it first happened and being in the hype of it and being wowed by LT and Bam Bam. Just the match
they
itself,
did good.
completely concur. They don't have it last, but just for the match itself and being in the moment, I remember it. I remember LT blowing up very quickly and being like, "Oh dear!" But like, it was still like, "Wow, they did it." And I think I read that we weren't bought into it when it was happening. We're like, "This is going to be terrible," and I think we were pleasantly surprised by it by LT, and I guess credit for that with Bam Bam, God rest his soul, kind of carrying him. But I do remember LT getting blown up fairly quickly in it.
Lawrence Taylor with momentum. LT.
What is he gonna try? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. He's fighting out more than he can chew now.
Lawrence Taylor, ladies and gentlemen, on the rope and
He caught him.
cover.
Get in there, DiBiase. I cannot believe it.
God, I love me some Bam Bam though.
Yeah, no,
That's
and Bam Bam
phenomenal for a
doesn't
big
get the
man.
credit that he deserves for that, for really guiding him and doing it. And
For
LT showed
carrying
up.
him.
LT showed up and did a good job. And yeah, it showed me early on that WWE had the formula like for a match. There's templates for different style matches. And Vince knew the template to bring someone that didn't really know a lot about wrestling in and put them in that template, and it still works as long as you have a good worker on the other side, which Bigelow was. Bigelow to this day, I don't think gets, and then right after that, they don't push Bigelow, and then he's gone by the end of 95 from the company. Odd. Like, he did that favor for you, and like, yeah, it's odd. Like, it's just odd. Vince is weird like that.
He blames that on the click, by the way. And there was like a long shoot video with Bam Bam where he says, like, I left before they could get to me. They got to Shane Douglas, they got to everyone else, and they ran the company, and I just.
But
would
the
not
funny
let them
thing was,
do
though,
it.
is what I don't know what Sean was saying, but what Diesel and Scott Hall say in shoot interviews was we knew that Bigelow was threatened by the click, but we weren't going to touch Bigelow because he could work his ass off. They all knew he could. And they're like, Scott Hall was like, I'm not going to touch that guy. The Bam Bam's a great worker. I want to be in there with him. So it's weird. Bigelow from the start hated what they did and kind of distanced himself quickly. But like the click was like, well, we weren't going to touch him. Like he was really good. Like, so it's kind of sad and funny at the same time because Bigelow, like Craig said, I left quick. Like it's like, well, they actually weren't going to touch you. They didn't want to touch you. Like they liked you because you could work well. Like Sean and Bam Bam would have tore the house down. Sean and Bam Bam for the world title, like around the horn, would have tore the house down, like, or the IC belt or whatever was going on at the time. Like Bigelow would have been there for Sean.
Imagine Bigelow taking like 3 or 4, kicks to the chin,
right,
and standing on his feet and wobbling around, and him being able to do his sort of moonsault. But Bam Bam was cartwheeling in there. Like people don't understand. Like in those days, that was a big deal for a man of that size, close to $4 bills, to be able to do what he's doing. He could have worked with Sean
before Savage got the nod in '88. Bam Bam was a leading contender to be world champion.
They were talking
about it absolutely in the top tier.
It was a legitimate conversation. Yeah.
He was getting massive crowd reactions.
But to your point, this match did bring the mainstream media attention to cover it, and that's what brings the casual fan. Vince knows what he's doing, but I do agree it didn't have to be. It could have been the second to last match. It didn't have to be the last match of the card. I'm down with you on that. Let's shift some gears here. This is where Mr. Please reinstate me after there's any kind of Major League Baseball controversy comes in. Pete Rose. All right. This is where wrestling finally gets back on its feet, and they use a celebrity to do it. And at least in my opinion, I think Jess, you agree with this. This is the ultimate wrestling celebrity at this time. But I will say it doesn't go without having the right antagonist to make it work. Right. And we're talking about Mike Tyson and WrestleMania 14. This wrestling was getting hot, and I want to say like white hot, in the realm of WCW is starting to trend down. Right. And finally, Vince is starting to feel like he's got a bit of an edge, and he's able to book Mike Tyson for a few appearances. And obviously WrestleMania is going to be the big payoff. Right. I can't even tell you how much fun this is. And, we'll get into it a little bit, but he was a special guest outside the ring as an enforcer for the main event between Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels, right? The media coverage on this was insane because there was so much, you call it publicity, you call it negative publicity. It's still publicity on Mike Tyson. And it was huge. And unfortunately right now, Mike Tyson had nothing else to do. Let's be honest. And the media play on this was fantastic. And it really brought Vince's company back into the mainstream. He played into the storyline by obviously hitting up DX, being a part of them for that period. It was 1998, March 2nd, right? Edition of Raw. And he's coming out, when that's when he exposes himself, right? But there's even a date before that, right, Jess, where he comes out and Stone Cold just kind of fucks with him, right?
Yeah, he was involved in the Royal Rumble that year, and he was sitting up in a suite with Vince and Shane. And so you knew that Tyson was going to be part of the WrestleMania march or whatever. And then, before that, it was the famous thing where Austin gets in the ring and flips him off and pushes him and gets arrested. That all happened too. And then it leaded up to
here's to you,
Tyson joining DX. You ruined it. Like just everything.
Being the toughest SOB in the WWF. He's a rattlesnake, JR. You said it.
I'm going to be honest right here. I know, we all grew up during the Tyson era, right? So we understood his celebrity power and all that. But at this point, I maybe I'm ignorant for feeling this way, but I did not, when I first saw that he was announced, I was like, why? He already bit Evander's ear. He's not even close to being the best heavyweight in the world anymore. That waved goodbye to him a long time ago. How is this even going to work? But Vince, from the time that he didn't get him in 1990, because he lost to Buster Douglas, Tyson was supposed to be a special guest referee way back in 1990 on an episode of the main event in our archives. But so he got knocked out by Buster Douglas like 2 weeks before that, and he pulled out. So Vince wanted Tyson back in 1990, didn't get him until 8 years later, and still knew what to do with him. And it just shows that if you use a celebrity right to enhance your own product and not put said celebrity over, and maybe saying that out loud is why LT didn't have a lasting impression, was that he got put over and wrestling sucked, so it did nothing for the wrestling product. You didn't put your title match last, and you had a non-wrestler go over in the main event. How did that help your product? But here, Tyson, to me, was damaged goods. I'm like, so what? They got Tyson. And even Bischoff on his podcast said at the time, WCW was in number one still at this point. And then he was like, big deal. Like, and then he was like, when they actually signed Tyson, Bischoff stopped dead in his tracks. He's like, we're in trouble. And I'm like, I never saw that. I never saw that coming. I was like, he's damaged. He's not the best heavyweight in the world. He bit Evander's ear. He's suspended everywhere.
And he wasn't going to wrestle.
How is this going to be good?
We were like, he's not going to wrestle. He's just going to ref. Like,
yes. But then when Mr. McMahon's character used Tyson to make his character more evil, if that makes sense, and then Austin comes in to get at Vince by disrupting the Tyson signing ceremony or whatever they called it that day, then I was like, oh, fuck. Like, Vince is so fucking smart. God. Like, then I realized, like, wrestling's fun again. Yes. They're using him to put wrestling over again. So they knew people would boo Tyson, and they did. And then they make him join DX. Like, looking back, I'm like, God damn it, Vince, you're so smart. But at the time, like, WCW was number one. So I'm all Hogan and I'm all that kind of shit over there. And I loved Austin and the rise that Vince was already posing at this point. WWF was getting hotter and getting on their heels.
Yeah, they were getting hot.
But when they first signed Tyson, I mean, again, maybe it was my pure ignorance.
You're like, why?
I was like, why? You're overpaying him. He's suspended. Right. He's damaged goods. He's been knocked out twice already, 3 times technically. And like, so I was like, he's done. Like, he's done. And then when I saw the way Vince used him, I was like, awesome. I underestimated Vince again. Like, shit. Like, that's what he does. And like, this was everywhere. Like Dave said, it was all over in the media. People took it seriously. And like, it was just insane the way this worked perfect. And it helped Vince get Austin into the stratosphere and the Mr. McMahon character get into the stratosphere. Yeah. And they overtook WCW like a month later.
Right. And never
To your
look back.
point, Tyson's involvement in Austin's meteoric rise drove Mania 14 to the highest buy rate since WrestleMania 5 was 730,000 pay-per-view buys. That's pretty impressive. The problem is we don't have pay-per-view now to really compare that. Everything's streaming at this point, but 730,000 buys back then was pretty impressive. And also at the rates that they were charging, we were charging almost $50.
It was like $40 a pop back then, and WrestleMania 5.
That was a lot of money.
WrestleMania 5 had like 760,000, and then it just dipped, and wrestling dipped, and everything dipped. And this was the first Mania that not only felt like a Mania again because it felt like a super show, but they dipped up there every year after this. By the way, kept climbing, and then they finally hit over 1 million buys with Mania 17. So they were just on a rocket ship here at this point. And Tyson had a huge part of it, even though I didn't see it at the time. Massive part of it.
Yeah. Agreed. We're running a little over. Do you guys want to talk about the one thing that we're missing here is the live entrance music?
It's good sound clips. That's why I want to talk about it. It's good sound clips.
Yeah, no, for sure.
No, we can end it quick. But it's just
okay. I think of one like Motorhead and Lemmy is fantastic.
That's what I thought. That's
Triple H.
When I wanted to put it in, long ago were the days of Run DMC doing the WrestleMania rap at WrestleMania 5. And then honestly, at WrestleMania 16 in 2000, Ice-T rapped Godfather down to the ring with Pimpin' Ain't Easy. And so, but it was awful. It was awful as well. So they were trying it. And then Triple H came down to Motorhead at WrestleMania 17. And to this day, they overdo all his he comes down on a fucking motorcycle now, Triple H, dressed like a fucking barbarian or dressed like a Terminator. That's all fine. It's all theatrical now. But it was raw. Motorhead just started playing and Triple H walked down. And I thought to this day, that sticks in my head. I was like, that's one of the best wrestling entrances I've ever seen. So good. And CM Punk's done it since then. Disturbed.
With them cover.
They don't often work.
A couple years. They don't.
That was it. When you figured out that the white guy or that band that did the DX music, when they did that live, who is that guy?
Oh my God.
And I think he's passed on, so apologies. But most of that stuff just does not work. But the Motorhead, it absolutely does. I think it's one of the only ones that kicked ass and is a different
and then for Mania 8. Yeah, for Mania 18 and 19, they actually Limp Bizkit came in on 19 and did a separate medley, but then they also played Undertaker down, who came down to Roland at the time. And that was awesome. Undertaker coming down on a fucking motorcycle and Fred Durst going, yeah, and doing his whole fucking thing. And then the next year,
what you gonna do now?
For Mania 19, or for that same year, he did Crack Addict, which was their theme song. So he came out later and performed. Then Disturbed did Austin's music after a while, and then they just came and performed live, and and Saliva did too, I think, for a year. And so it was just it was awesome. They would just have them do musical, they would play someone down or just play, and it worked for a second, but like Craig said, there were some ones that went way off the rails.
So this on?
Yeah. We talk about the Triple H, and he was some skinny fucking high schooler, and they're like, "What, you?
Oh my God!"
So yeah, it was it's kind of I think that wrestling is music is a huge part, but people don't. Again, they think of them as famous musicians,
Liberace,
and they
in WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, don't forget
Aretha Franklin. Rest in peace,
America the Beautiful. Vince loves his America.
So yeah, I want to end it because I know I'm going to be playing cool sound clips right now for the wrestling, the music stuff. But
all I gotta give is it's all about the game.
That's my favorite. When he came down, he's a heel and everything. Well, he's an asshole for that because he knew he would get him over. And I'm just like, you're a fucking heel. Don't come down to shit.
Does Triple H usually have good entrances? Does he make sure that he gets good entrances for himself?
I hear that he makes sure he gets the best entrances all the time.
Well, not him. I mean,
oh my,
maybe he fucking does. Sting. Now I'm gonna shit on him because Craig got me all riled up right now. WrestleMania 31, Sting comes in from WCW. I mean, long waited. We waited for this forever.
Yep.
Sting comes down to a Japanese entrance.
Yeah,
and I'm because Sting's known for Japan and shit. And so he comes down, and Sting comes down to no smoke, no fanfare, nothing. It's just an Asian. Yeah. They're doing the gongs and shit like that. And he comes down, and I'm like, that's not Sting. And then of course Triple H comes down with Arnold Schwarzenegger going, "It's time to play the game." And he comes down with a Terminator mask on. Yeah. And I'm like, how the fuck or do you justify that? You're the heel.
Well, because
Sting
went over and won that match.
Right. Oh no, he fucking did. Like, God damn it.
Oh.
Damn it.
Oh, dude.
Oh no.
Well, Craig, it's time to play the game, isn't it? Like, no one's figured the game out.
Like I said,
yet.
guys, hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P 2019. Click on Linktree and join us on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, on YouTube for your listening pleasure. This is Dave, Jess, and Craig with the O.W.P, man. Have a good one.